The King of the Ring has a complicated legacy. While some crown winners went on to become legends loved by the fans, others looked more like clowns and less like kings. In this video, we're looking at the best versus worst King of the Ring winners in WWE history, starting with the one that didn't just make a star, it kicked off an entire new era. By June 1996, Stone Cold Steve Austin had already cycled through one failed gimmick as the Ringmaster. He wasn't even supposed to win King of the Ring that year. Triple H was the original pick, but backstage punishment over the infamous curtain call incident took him out of the running, and Austin got the spot instead, and the Texas Rattlesnake made the most of the lucky break. After defeating Jake Roberts in the final, Austin delivered an improvised promo that'd give birth to one of the most popular catchphrases in wrestling history. The coronation speech transformed Austin overnight from a generic tough guy into the foul-mouthed anti-hero who'd go on to define the Attitude Era. Within a year, he was feuding with Bret Hart and Vince McMahon, and within 2, he was the face of the entire company. Austin would go on to become a 6-time WWE champion and a 3-time Royal Rumble winner before retiring in 2003 due to neck and knee injuries. Today, he's a WWE Hall of Famer who still pops up for the occasional stunner, and that one tournament win remains one of the most consequential nights in wrestling history. But not every king gets a kingdom. Some get a cardboard crown and a one-way ticket to obscurity. Baron Corbin's run as King Corbin is proof that winning the tournament doesn't guarantee the fans will actually want you wearing the crown. By 2019, Corbin had already burned through some serious pushes. His Money in the Bank cash-in attempt in 2017 flopped embarrassingly, and his stint as the smug on-screen Raw authority figure made him one of the most actively booed performers on the roster. So when Corbin won the tournament that summer, fans had already rejected him. King Corbin leaned all the way into the insufferable gimmick. Except the crowd wasn't booing him because of his heel work. They were just annoyed. WWE kept him crowned for nearly 2 years, far longer than the bit could sustain itself, and by the time he dropped the gimmick to Shinsuke Nakamura in 2021, most fans had simply stopped caring. But while Corbin's crown became a punchline, one other winner managed to turn his entire career around after being crowned king. Booker T had spent years as one of WWE's most talented yet overlooked performers. Then, in 2006, he won the King of the Ring tournament, and instead of treating it as just another victory, Booker turned it into a full character reinvention. He became King Booker, a self-declared monarch who spoke in an exaggerated English accent. The character could have easily come across as a cheap minstrel act, but Booker's comedic instincts and his willingness to commit completely made it work. Whenever King Booker got truly angry, the accent would slip and the old Houston-born Booker T would burst through, and that contrast became the running joke that powered the entire gimmick. The win propelled him to his 6th and final world title reign when he dethroned Rey Mysterio for the World Heavyweight Championship. He left WWE in 2007, returned in 2011, and has spent the years since as a commentator, Hall of Famer, and ambassador for the business. But while King Booker was funny, King Lesnar was straight up terrifying. Just months after his debut, Brock Lesnar was already being booked like a force of nature, and the King of the Ring tournament was simply the next building block in the fastest rise WWE had ever seen. Lesnar tore through the competition before defeating Rob Van Dam in the final, and the win earned him a guaranteed title shot at SummerSlam. There was no comedy here, no royal court, it was just legit, freakish dominance. At SummerSlam, Lesnar delivered on every bit of that hype by defeating The Rock to become WWE champion at just 25 years old. Lesnar would leave WWE in 2004 to chase the NFL, detour through New Japan and the UFC, where he won the heavyweight title, before returning to WWE in 2012 as a part-time main event monster. He's since broken The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, held multiple world titles, and remained one of the most bankable attractions in the company's history. That 2002 tournament run was just a trailer before the Beast's decades-long carnage really started. But if Lesnar's win was well-timed, 1995 gave us perhaps the worst winner in the tournament's history. Mabel was a lumbering tag team performer from Men on a Mission who turned heel specifically for this push. The crowd in Philadelphia, sitting just blocks from ECW's home turf, was so unimpressed by the entire spectacle that they spent the final chanting the rival promotion's name instead of cheering. But Vince didn't take the hint. Mabel was immediately positioned as the company's next monster heel, culminating in a WWF Championship match against Diesel at SummerSlam, where he legitimately injured the champion after a botch. The reckless streak continued into a feud with The Undertaker, where Mabel broke his opponent's orbital bone, forcing Taker into a creepy mask for months. Just months after winning the crown, Mabel was released from the company thanks to the negative fan reception and his poor in-ring skills. He'd return years later as Viscera and Big Daddy V, but the King Mabel experiment stands as the cautionary tale every future tournament winner would try to avoid. Nearly 3 decades later, one winner finally proved the format could still produce a genuinely dominant king. Gunther's King of the Ring win in 2024 felt less like an opportunity and more like a formality. By the time he entered the tournament, the ring general had already spent over 500 days as Intercontinental Champion, built entirely on bone-rattling chops and a stiff in-ring style that made every match feel dangerous. Winning King of the Ring by defeating Randy Orton in the final launched Gunther as a serious main eventer, and the ring general made the most out of this opportunity. Gunther has continued main eventing at the top of the card since, trading the World Heavyweight Championship back and forth, and even retiring John Cena and AJ Styles. If Mabel proved a crown can't make a star, Gunther proved a star doesn't need the crown to mean anything, he just makes the crown mean more. But while Gunther's win boosted his career, Xavier Woods became a victim of bad timing. For Xavier Woods, winning King of the Ring was a childhood dream. Woods had publicly campaigned for the tournament for years, and when he finally won the whole thing in 2021, it felt like the start of his big solo push. But then the story basically stalled. Woods briefly feuded with Roman Reigns, who destroyed his crown on television. After that one feud, Woods suffered an injury, the King Woods gimmick quietly faded, and Woods reverted to his New Day persona. The win never became the launching pad he'd hoped for. It's the rare King of the Ring victory that's remembered fondly by everyone, yet it failed to boost the winner's career. But if Woods got a bittersweet ending, Harley Race set a standard most winners since have struggled to match. Harley Race winning King of the Ring in 1986 wasn't really about elevating an up-and-comer at all. It was WWF solving a problem of its own making. Race arrived in the company that year as an 8-time NWA World Champion, but WWF refused to acknowledge titles won anywhere else, leaving fans with no obvious way to understand just how decorated this new signing actually was. The solution was the King of the Ring tournament, a non-televised house show where Race wrestled an absurd 6 matches in a single night, finishing by defeating Pedro Morales in the final. The coronation that followed set the template every royal gimmick since has borrowed from: the crown, the purple cape, the theme music. It worked because Race had the gravitas to sell it as a feared veteran rather than a comedy act playing dress-up. Race never won a WWF World Championship, but he didn't need to. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2004 and passed away in 2019, remembered as one of the toughest, most respected men the business ever produced. But while Harley's coronation set the standard, King Sheamus failed to live up to the standard. By the time Sheamus won King of the Ring in November 2010, he'd already been WWE Champion twice, which made the tournament win feel like an afterthought. Worse for Sheamus, fans in the building were vocally pulling for John Morrison, the charismatic underdog he beat in the final, and the result landed with a thud instead of a celebration. King Sheamus leaned into the heat, but the gimmick never really took off the way earlier runs had, and within months he found himself stuck in an extended losing streak that further soured the goodwill from the win. The King of the Ring crown is mostly remembered now as a brief accessory in Sheamus's career rather than a meaningful chapter. He's gone on to a long, accomplished career regardless, racking up multiple world titles, a Royal Rumble win, and a celebrated run as half of the tag team bar with Cesaro. The crown just never really fit the way it fit for some of his predecessors. But while King Sheamus's run was disappointing, years earlier, one wrestler had already redefined King of the Ring as a measuring stick for greatness. Bret Hart remains the only 2-time King of the Ring winner in history, and both victories came at pivotal moments. His first win in 1991 came on the heels of capturing the Intercontinental Championship from Mr. Perfect, confirming Hart's transformation from steady tag team specialist into a singles star. His second win, at the first-ever King of the Ring pay-per-view in 1993, is the stuff of legend: 3 matches in a single night against Razor Ramon, Mr. Perfect, and Bam Bam Bigelow. Each one a clinic in a different style, delivered while Hart was reeling from being unceremoniously overshadowed by Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania weeks earlier. Hart has called that night one of the moments he truly believed he'd never take a backseat to anyone again, and many wrestlers have pointed to that performance as proof of his standing as the best worker of his generation. Hart went on to become a 5-time WWF champion, win the 1994 Royal Rumble, and headline 3 different WrestleManias, becoming an undeniable centerpiece of the new generation era. The Montreal Screwjob and a rocky run in WCW complicated the end of his in-ring career, but Hart's standing as one of the greatest technicians the business has ever produced has only grown since. But if Bret Hart is proof that King of the Ring can crown a legacy, Billy Gunn is proof that it can just as easily end a career. Billy Gunn's 1999 King of the Ring win might be the single biggest waste of momentum in tournament history, and it happened at the peak of the Attitude Era when almost everything else WWF touched turned to gold. Gunn had just left D-Generation X as a heel alongside Triple H in China, defeating Ken Shamrock, Kane, and his former tag partner X-Pac to win the crown, and on paper it looked like the prelude to a serious singles push. Instead, WWF didn't even bother giving him a coronation ceremony. He simply walked back up the ramp, and the push that followed centered almost entirely on his nickname, leading into a feud with The Rock built on relentless rear-end jokes. The blow-off was a match at SummerSlam, which The Rock won, and the entire angle is widely remembered as one of the most embarrassing storylines of the era. Gunn himself later admitted on a podcast that the win was almost a career killer, joking that WWE conveniently skips over 1999 whenever they air King of the Ring retrospectives. He rebounded by reuniting with Road Dogg as the New Age Outlaws and later finding real success managing the Acclaimed in AEW. And this brings us to the latest King of the Ring winner, Oba Femi. At Night of Champions 2026, Oba defeated Jey Uso to win the crown and a world title shot at SummerSlam. Following a massive win over Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and a solid run throughout the year on Raw, the crown has perfectly set Oba up as the next big thing in WWE. Whether Triple H pulls the trigger and crowns Oba as champion or fumbles the booking once again is yet to be seen. But let me know in the comments who Oba Femi should challenge at SummerSlam, and I'll see you in the next one.